Hello and welcome to NewFilmmakers Los Angeles in partnership with Movie Maker magazine. My name is Danny DeLillo. We're here at the South Park Center. I'm delighted to be joined with Adriana with her fantastic film, Coming in Hot. Let's take a look at the clip.
Tell me something. Have you been seeing someone else?
Why would you think such a thing? That is ridiculous.
Whatever it is, I'll find out. I'm gonna...
Do what?
Baby, I'm back.
Adriana, welcome to the NewFilmmakers LA family, and thank you for being here.
Well, thank you, Danny. Very happy to be here.
And also, thank you for bringing your wonderful film. As I was saying just off screen, your film was made for the big screen. For those that haven't seen it, tell us a brief synopsis.
So it's the story of Mia, a young and introverted woman, a bored housewife. One day she snaps and disappears in the middle of the desert, driving this red-hot 1955 Ford Thunderbird.
This car is like mesmerizing. I mean, absolutely amazing. The cinematography was phenomenal, the way you shot and everything else. Really, really great story. Really, really great idea and a really, really great character. Where did that inspiration come for you in deciding to make this idea into a film?
Well, it's really a lot of things. I mean, not to ruin the plot twist, but I was walking down the street once and I had this vision outside of the story and I was like, I'm onto something, like this is funny. And I started almost like interrogating internally this character, being like, who are you? What are you doing that? And writing the story in reverse. Like in what universe would this make sense? And so, you know, everyone is saying how like the final scene is so wild and a surprise, but I love plot twists, and someone was saying that a good plot twist is both unpredictable and inevitable. And so I think like a lot of plot twists do not work because they're actually not inevitable. Something else could have happened. So the beauty of a short film is like you can really build up towards something like this. And so it was all like going in reverse to set up everything for this big payoff at the end.
I mean, so before we get, I want to get into story and character and all of those things, but like the way this was visually shot was mesmerizing. Like the production design, the lighting, everything was so, the music, everything was just like really, really special. When you went into making this idea, how did you kind of talk to your team and how you wanted it to be visually, how you wanted to visualize? Because it was really stunning to watch.
Well, so I worked with great people, my cinematographer, Sanda Bonnet, my composer, Yael Benamour, and my producers, Martin Meloul and Cosmos Kindarius, so many other people that I need to thank. But it was also, I think it was the first time that I was directing, but like at a more ambitious level, because I had done more like, you know, student films things, more things that, you know, like you're bringing your friends in a room and shooting something. And so here I had a very specific vision. And also like I know a challenge that I had was like this kind of vision hasn't really been done before. I mean, of course I'm taking inspirations from, you know, Tarantino, Ducournau and so on. So subverting those things, but I knew that I wanted certain things where it wasn't that obvious. And I'm a very visual person, and in order to communicate, like usually I had like mood boards, and my phone is just bursting with screenshots and images and sketches and notes that I make of like things that I liked, and then suddenly there's a story that starts to create in my mind, and it's like it starts to absorb those different references and ideas here and there, and it becomes something cohesive. It's a little bit like a galaxy happening when you have this like pulling force, and all those little like floating islands, floating rocks start to like create a system together. And so I have kind of like my own mental system that is projected into, my phone and anything that I used to help me, and like, all my little mental folders.
Yeah.
And I think like, so the beauty when you start working with the same people over and over is like they understand your language. And I think I was talking with Yael, my composer, and for something else after coming in hot, and I told her like, do you know what I mean? Because I was talking in like feelings and movements, and not really, because like, for instance, like I'm not a musician, so I don't really know the vocabulary, like the specific vocabulary. And I was trying to explain something with my hands and some do and so on. And in the end, I was like, I asked her, do you know what I mean? And she said something, yeah, now that I know you, I know what you mean.
Oh, I love that. And well, this you let them into your galaxy,
exactly.
Which I love, you know.
Exactly.
That's a great reference that you said there. Also, as well, like, I mean, goodness me, I know, you're French Italian who have some of the most beautiful visual filmmaking abilities that we've all learned from in other countries to sort of absorb and everything else. You kind of alluded to some of the people that you look up to as well. Who are some of your inspirations?
Well, I'm definitely standing on the shoulders of giants, and being French and Italian and having been raised in both countries, I was always exposed to a lot of art and culture and so on. So there's definitely like a lot of different influences. I think like there's a lot of Mediterranean influences, especially from the Adriatic coast. My name is Adriana. So connections and so on. Like this like, even though we were shooting in California and we're taking a lot of the references from road movies and so on, there's this like gold lights that to me, like, because I wanted to create something very surreal that's more like Mediterranean. And because it's also close to the desert light, I think it creates this like, you recognize it, but not totally. Something
absolutely.
Like that. And so reference, like filmmakers and artists that inspired me. So I like Julia Ducournau a lot, and so that's funny. Obviously, when people saw the plot twist, they thought about Titan and this infamous scene with a car. And the funny thing is, we actually shot our films at the same time.
Really?
And so when I didn't know about her film, and actually I had a friend of mine working on the film, and I said on Titan, and I sent him my script as I was doing mine. Wow. He said, "Girl, next year there's a film coming out. It's for you. You're gonna like it."
Oh my God, I love it. I love that you connect. It's always nice. Listen, do you know what? You are both on the same par. You're moving up with these influences.
There was
too.
something in the zeitgeist, something in the air. But then I think it's probably because she's also French. We must have been exposed to similar artists and so on.
Absolutely.
Cronenberg, obviously. But yeah, I think so for me, like I think we both were trying to subvert like very, the car is this masculine icon, but cars are represented as like feminine. And so for me, for instance, it's very different in Titan. But so for me, for instance, in Coming in Hot, what I was really interested is like when we shot this opening scene of the main character finding the car, I remember saying to the camera operator, shoot the car like a woman you love, and shoot me, my character, as an object. And so at the start of the film, we start with those stereotypes that we know, the blonde femme fatale, the car glistening in the sun. And as the story progresses, it shifts where, so this character has a very rich inner life, and she imbues in a certain inanimate objects she connects with an inner life. And even though I don't show it explicitly, like I don't have a voiceover for the characters and so on, I wanted to keep it kind of like open for everyone. But I had for me a very clear and specific understanding of what was happening, especially as I was acting, but I wanted it to leave it open. And so for Mia, the main character, she has a really hard time connecting with other human beings, and she masks and performs like the duties that are expected from her. So that's why from the outside she looks like this like very polished housewife. But at the same time, you look at her husband, you can see that he has a bit of a temper, and so even though he's a doting and caring husband, he's not that safe. And so for her, the safe way is just to pretend that everything is fine and retreat in her inner world. And it's a bit like when you're a child and you're playing with your little dolls and your toys, you're imbuing all these inanimate objects from with this rich inner life. And so I wanted to take that to like a funny, almost grotesque extreme where, when we talk about this inner life with objects, everyone understands that, but usually it's in a very non-sexual environment. And when you bring the sexual aspect of it, that's when it gets uncomfortable and uncanny. And I wanted that, so coming in hot is funny, but not funny, more like funny because it's a little uncomfortable. And so I thought, what about if we take this this experience that we all know, especially as children, of connecting with objects, but you push it to the extreme as an adult. And so as an adult, like, it would enter into the sexual dimension. And I thought it was funny also because, from my own experience as a woman, being exposed to being objectified and sexualized against my will almost on a daily basis. And so I was like, I kind of realized those two apparently disconnected phenomena, and I was like, I wanted to do something and create this story. And so here I was like, that's a funny twist. If you start with those stereotypes of objectification, and as the story progresses, there's this disinterest from the other human figures in the story for a very rich adventure and romance for objects.
I mean,
with objects.
Listen, everything you just said was like a filmmaking class. Honestly, you have such an incredible just take on filmmaking and imagination, and I'm so glad you're a filmmaker, honestly.
Thank
because I really wanted to know the depth that went into all of those different dynamics, and there is so much depth to objectification. Obviously, for women, but also using that analogy symbolically with an object in the sense of a car, and then changing the masculinity and femininity and the power trips and the elements as well. It was so clever. Oh my goodness, it's amazing. How is it? I mean, okay, you have multiple roles,
Yes.
in front and behind. How was that dynamic for you?
It was a lot. So initially, I'm very passionate about acting. Acting is something very dear to my heart, and something that I really love about acting is to really surrender to it. But in order for that to happen, you need to have someone to catch you when you do this leap of faith, this trust fall. And so, usually it's the director. And I'm someone, there's a lot of control in my life. I like when things are choreographed a certain way, and that happens with control, and which I think is probably why I love acting so much. It's an opportunity to go and go in the opposite direction. Here, so I had experiences before, and acting and co-directing, but not being fully both roles. And to be honest, it was extremely challenging. And I would only recommend to anyone to do it if you really master at least one side. But so there's a few things that I would after that experience I would do differently, and would try to get more support. I think, for instance, in this case, it was when we started shooting, it was very difficult for me to surrender because also it was my first time working with a lot of the people on set. So it's not like I could, that people kind of knew my vision and where I was going. I had to, I couldn't let go of my director's hat in those scenes. And so I think I could tell that I was held back, but I try to use it because the character is very quiet in the first place. I try to use that to be part of the insecurities of the character. And then when the car wash scene happened, so before and during the pre-production, I was very worried about this scene. I was like, if the acting is not good, it's going to be very goofy, and I will look ridiculed and ridiculed. And yeah, I remember like I was really worried about that. And I asked a lot of other actors. I even had a friend who's a sex therapist, and I asked her, like, how can you pull it off and so on. And she was like, well, I'm not really an acting coach, but here's, what comes to mind and so on. And so I was overthinking about it. And then when the day came, so it was the very last thing we shot. And I asked on purpose that for it to be the last thing so that I could almost give everything I had and be drained. And but knew it was okay because it was all finished and so on. And I think also the tension leading up to this scene also fueled me before. And on set, I was happy. I knew that we had like good footage, like good coverage of things that I wanted, and I started creating bonds with the different people on set and feeling safe. And I remember 10 minutes before we had a very limited time to shoot because water was getting in the engine of the car, but I just had a moment where like I got this, and I realized that all this preparation that I had made before, it was still useful. It didn't go the way I thought, but I was trying to like over plan this. But what happened instead is like I came with like a very heavy toolbox with like a lot of tools, and I ended up using maybe 2 tools of the 10 that I prepared.
Okay.
But that gave me the confidence, and so I thought that's how you prepare. You don't plan for things to happen exactly. No, you just make sure that you have a lot of cards up your sleeve, so that whatever happens, and the scene did not happen the way we had planned at all because of basically the water being a big, the car wasn't waterproof the way we thought it was. So I wanted to have this slow burn and build up.
It was amazing. I mean, so sometimes as well when it's when these things just organically happen, that might be the best flow for how the film
if you're prepared.
Which you were, which is amazing. And honestly, congratulations. I mean, it's really, you put so much work into this film. And it shows.
Thank you. There was a lot of work indeed.
Yeah, and it's like something you'll go back and you almost made like this kind of cult film, in a short,
that would be the goal,
which is amazing. You really did. Which leads to say, last question, because I wish I could talk for hours. What is next for you?
Mermaids.
Can't wait for this.
So Mermaids, Mermaids almost predate Coming in Hot. So it's my first film before Coming in Hot. The name was How Far. And the nights before the shoot, so I was going to bed early to have my beauty sleep and look good on camera and so on and be like fresh and prepared. And the night before, I had this idea for Mermaids. It was almost like a 5-minute skit. I was like, oh, this is so good. This is so good. And I didn't sleep because I had to write it down, and I was so excited. But Mermaids it's very boundary pushing. I would say like, hopefully one day I could say Coming in Hot walked so that mermaids could run and swim.
I love that.
But it's 10 times wilder. But in order for me to just even get to that place, I needed to do like a lot of maturing and so on. So it's been like 5 years that I've been talking to absolutely everyone in my life about mermaids. And so Mermaid it's a psychedelic horror story about 2 young women exploring their sexuality in the underground New York party scene, who transform into tentacled monsters when they get aroused. And it's another allegory around like non-normative aspects of sexuality, a lot of taboos, but also how women themselves can be afraid of their own bodies and so on. And so at the moment,
it's going to be amazing. It's going to be phenomenal.
I hope. I'm putting so much of myself in it that there's just no other way. That's just like I have too much skin in the game.
And it takes a lot because it's hard to make a film, but you're not just making do. You're really putting every intricate detail and element in there, and out will come a masterpiece. So honestly, but listen, Adriana, thank you so much for bringing this film to us, and thank you for your artistic visions and what you give to film. And we're really wishing the best of luck, but we can't wait to see your features. So thank you very much.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, Adriana.